As with all things in life, there's always an end to a beginning, or it is there. These stories reveal the bizarre experiences of people who have died, but mysteriously came back to life. Coming back from the dead isn't exactly something that happens on a daily basis. In fact, only 2% of adults whose heart has stopped beating managed to be revived with the CPR. Here are 10 stories of incredible people who have survived the trip to the other side and lived to tell the tale. Number 10. Brian Miller. This truck driver from Ohio was declared dead after suffering from a massive heart attack. However, unlike many whose heart simply stopped beating, his heart restarted again after 4 to 5 minutes, despite his brain not to receiving any oxygen. During that time, Miller described walking around a heavenly path, lined with flowers, seeing a radiant light ahead of him and deceased relatives accompanying him on his journey in the afterlife. He added that just before waking up, his deceased mother-in-law took his arms and told him, "It's not your time, Brian." Number 9. Sasha Elias. Known on Reddit as user Root Dude, this college student revealed that he was clinically dead for 2 minutes, on not one, but 2 separate occasions. The first purportedly took place in June 2014 after he crashed his motorcycle, and the second time, a few months later when he overdosed on painkillers. Elias described his death experience as taking a short dreamless nap, where he was devoid of any thoughts and consciousness. He added that his vision became all black, and it felt like he had been sleeping a long time after reviving from 2 minutes of death. Number 8. Anita Moorjani. This intercultural consultant was diagnosed with lymphoma, and her organs subsequently shut down due to the advanced progression of the cancer. Doctors stated that she was in her final hours after she succumbed to a coma and did not respond to external stimuli. However, she came out of the coma 3 days later, claiming that she had an out-of-body experience where her deceased father and best friend persuaded her to return to a physical body to live her life fearlessly. Even more miraculously, Moorjani was cancer-free within 5 weeks and subsequently released from hospital. Number 7. Eben Alexander. Eben was a lifelong atheist and a staunch critic of the idea of an afterlife. That was until he died and came back to tell the tale. This neurosurgeon fell into a coma caused by a meningitis infection in his brain, resulting in his entire neocortex shutting down completely. However, he arose from this coma a week after, miraculously speaking of angels, heaven, and meeting with his deceased relatives. Alexander subsequently made a full recovery and goes on to spread the word about his experience in seeing the divine creator of the world. Number 6. Ian McCormick. This person was another atheist before his incident, which occurred whilst he was diving near the small island of Mauritius. There he was stung by 5 poisonous jellyfish. By the time an ambulance had arrived, his body was under total paralysis and necrosis had begun to set in. Ian remembered his life flashing before him and saw a vision of his mother, praying for him and encouraged him to seek God for forgiveness of his sins. As he called out to God, a brilliant white light shone and carried him out of the surrounding darkness. Ian claimed that God gave him a choice on whether to return or stay in heaven, and when he chose to return, he miraculously woke up after more than 15 minutes of being pronounced dead. Number 5. Howard Storm. This Christian minister suffered from a sudden perforation in his stomach after an excursion trip and was rushed to hospital to receive treatment. However, the hospital was understaffed on the weekends, so Storm was left untreated until 10 hours later. He claimed that during his final hours, he experienced leaving his body and being cajoled by seemingly friendly voices that led him down a hallway. Storm soon realized the beings were malevolent and they began attacking him both physically and psychologically. When he refused to follow them, he decided to pray to God, and that was when he saw Jesus in the form of a bright light coming to his rescue. Other spiritual beings of light soon arrived and recounted his life, causing him to reflect on his past relationships. Storm later awoke and recovered successfully from the surgery. Number 4. Pam Reynolds Lowery. This American singer-songwriter had a near-death experience when doctors intentionally put her in a clinically induced death state in order to perform a surgical procedure to remove an aneurysm in her brain. She claimed that during the operation, she had an out-of-body experience where she watched the doctors perform the operation on her. Before being put towards the light, there she communicated with her deceased relatives and a bunch of unknown people. At some point, however, her uncle brought her back to her body and pushed her back in it. Due to her reluctance to leave the afterlife, Reynolds claimed that it felt like jumping into ice water when she re-entered her body, after which she successfully recovered from the surgery. Number 3. Colton Burpo. This young kid was barely 4 when he claimed he experienced coming back from the dead after his appendix burst. While in his outer body experience, Burpo claimed he saw Jesus on a rainbow-colored horse and a number of deceased family members who he did not know existed until that point of time. This included specific details about his miscarried sister and a great-grandfather who had died 30 years before Colton was born. Number 2. Mary Neal. This orthopedic spine surgeon claimed to have experienced life after death after she capsized in her kayak in a South American river. She was submerged for more than 15 minutes, during which her brain was starved of oxygen. During that time, Mary claimed that she encountered Christ, who brought her back to life, as her family needed her in the face of future tragedy. She claimed that God said that her son Willie was going to die, although he did not specify when. 10 years later, in a chilling confirmation of this prophetic experience, her son Willie died when he was 19, killed instantly in a car accident when a driver who was on his phone ran over him. Number 1. Veronica Ulrike Barthel. This 22-year-old woman was driving to a party in Frankfurt when she got struck by lightning in her car. During that time, she claimed that her consciousness left her body and she saw her burned hands holding onto the steering wheel. All of a sudden, she was rushed through a tunnel and arrived at the gates of hell, escorted by demons on either side that brought her to a waiting room. There, Veronica witnessed people getting speared by demons and burning in a lake of fire, crying out to Jesus while getting tortured. During this final hour, she claimed that Jesus came to her and delivered her back to her body with instructions to proclaim what she saw. These stories make you question whether our consciousness supports death itself. The real question is, what do you think happens when we die? Thanks for watching and subscribe to CRAIN.